It's hard to imagine this is how 2020 started. But across the world, dozens were falling ill with a mysterious virus that would ultimately change life as we know it.
Chinese health authorities are still working to identify the virus behind a pneumonia outbreak in the central city of Wuhan.
At least 59 people are believed to have been sickened by the new virus.
Tonight, U.S. airports on high alert, screening passengers for symptoms of a deadly new virus.
I'm very concerned. Now that you brought it to my attention, I'll stay away from most people wearing masks.
The U.S. didn't confirm its first coronavirus case until January 21st, though we know now it's possible the virus could have been spreading as early as December 2019.
I have today declared that the coronavirus presents a public health emergency in the United States.
In England,
Egypt's health ministry has announced a first confirmed case of the COVID-19 in Africa.
the latest Italian health report here says there have been more than 50 new cases overnight.
At the end of February, the U.S. reports its first death and confirms 25 cases. But within days, that number swells to over 1,000. And this is where things really go downhill.
Your presence, I'm going to put my hand up in front of my mouth. Yawning is not a life-threatening event. To find out who those people are. I don't care if you play football or not. Stay away from evil people who don't care about your health.
If we raise our vaccination rate, protect ourselves and others with masking, expanded testing, and identify people who are infected, we can and we will turn the tide on COVID-19. A lot of hard work. It's going to take
COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
We will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States.
Many of us are frustrated with the nearly 80 million Americans who are still not vaccinated. Many of us are frustrated with the nearly 80 million Americans who are still not vaccinated, even though the vaccine is safe, effective, and
It's just chaos.
Shortly after President Trump declares a state of emergency, the White House Coronavirus Task Force tells people to avoid bars, restaurants, and groups of more than 10 people. They call it, quote, 15 days to slow the spread.
With several weeks of focused action, we can turn the corner and turn it quickly.
States soon start closing schools and announcing stay-at-home orders.
Stay at home.
Stay home, stay safe.
Quite simply, stay at home.
In late March, Congress signs off on a massive $2 trillion stimulus bill as New York emerges as the global epicenter of the outbreak.
In the New York area, a lot of hospitals are already running out of beds, masks, supplies, and testing materials.
If you don't have a healthcare crisis in your community, please come help us in New York.
You might be confused about what is true and what is false about COVID-19. You might be confused about what is true and what is false about COVID-19.
Your presence, I'm going to put my hand up in front of my mouth. Yawning is not a life-threatening event.
Well, here's a moral question peculiar to these days. Is it wrong to mock people who publicly crusade against the COVID vaccine and then die of the disease?
Echoing a claim vaccines don't really work anyway. But just after posting that, according to a GoFundMe page set up for his family, Apley was admitted to a hospital, diagnosed with COVID, and by Tuesday, he was dead.
Marcus Lamb died after being hospitalized for COVID-19 recently. Lamb led a popular Christian broadcast network and used his empire, among other things, used it to spread inaccurate information.
Turn now to Texas, where controversial Christian television CEO Marcus Lamb has died after his battle with COVID-19.
A prominent QAnon anti-mask, anti-vax advocate is now dead.
It's always strong. Every minute.
Despite the struggle, he shares his story.
If I can help save anybody. I'm wondering to use my voice to do that.
There's a virus here. It kills people, and the only way we prevent it is to get vaccinated, to wear masks, to do social distancing, washing your hands all the time, and not just to think about, well, my freedom is being kind of disturbed here. No, screw your freedom. Because with freedom comes obligations and responsibilities. We cannot just say, I have the right to do X, Y, and Z. When you affect other people, that is when it gets serious.
Having everybody being able to drive 100 miles an hour in a car, that this is one of those things that should be mandatory, that we all get. Business, all businesses, movie business, all business need to take the lead and to be not so timid in dealing with their collective bargaining agreement partners.
As you're right, one of the unlucky ones who suffered, who was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, and it's been a long road. How are you doing today?
Imagine if you could just assume that people were like, look, we don't know if this came out of a lab. This geezer thinks it's much more likely it came out of a lab. We're obviously a bit scared of telling you that because it makes people culpable and it might affect economic relationships down the line. It might make the pharmaceutical industry culpable, might affect the relationships between China and America, might affect finance in all sorts of ways, but that's not a priority right now.
And here are some compounds that have this and that effect, and I'm going to try them. And they are supposed to learn, and then they are supposed to talk to each other. And that process is supposed to make doctors better and better at treating the disease. And what we did instead was we had some top-down bureaucratic thing telling doctors what they were allowed to think, what they were allowed to try, what they were allowed to discuss. It has literally removed licenses. It has fired people who concluded things that were contrary to the public health authority, and it has created an environment in which basically you have two choices. You either embrace the advice of a public health authority that is clearly mad, or you're on your own.
We can and we will turn the tide on COVID-19. A lot of hard work. It's going to take some time. It'll take a lot of hard work. It's going to take some time. Many of us are frustrated with the nearly 80 million Americans who are still not vaccinated. Many of us are frustrated with the nearly 80 million Americans who are still not vaccinated. Many of us are frustrated with the nearly 80 million Americans who are still not vaccinated. Safe, effective, and free. You might be confused about what is true and what is false about COVID-19. You might be confused about what is true and what is false about COVID-19.